It was a morning like any other. The sun was already creeping over the horizon, casting soft hues of orange and pink across the sleepy streets. Inside a small apartment on the outskirts of the city, Maya Williams sat at her kitchen table, sipping a cup of coffee as she scrolled through her phone. The clock on the wall ticked steadily, a reminder that another day of work was waiting for her. She glanced at the time, 8:15 a.m. She should be on her way. Maya had always been an early riser, disciplined, and always punctual. It was the way she was raised in a neighborhood where survival often meant being one step ahead. She had grown up in a tight-knit community, one that instilled values of kindness, hard work, and perseverance. However, she had learned the hard way that no matter how much good you did for others, the world didn't always return the favor. At 28 years old, Maya had been working as a personal assistant for a prestigious law firm for the past 3 years. The pay wasn't great, but it was stable. She had her routine, her friends, and her small but cozy life. Nothing too flashy, but it was hers. Still, deep down, she knew she wanted more than this. She had dreams of becoming a lawyer herself, to fight for justice and make a name in a world that was often indifferent to people like her. That particular morning, Maya had almost forgotten her keys, a sign that she was distracted, perhaps too deep in her thoughts. When she stepped outside the apartment building, the fresh morning air hit her like a jolt. She adjusted her purse strap over her shoulder and walked towards the bus stop, the usual faces greeting her along the way. She had nearly reached the corner when she heard the unmistakable sound of screeching tires. Before she could react, a black SUV swerved wildly, narrowly missing a pedestrian before it skidded to a halt, its front bumper crumpling into the side of a streetlight. Maya froze for a moment, trying to comprehend what had just happened. Then instinct kicked in. She rushed toward the vehicle, her heart pounding in her chest. Inside the SUV, the driver was slumped over, blood trickling from a wound on his forehead. Maya's breath hitched as she peered through the windshield. A man, probably in his 40s, was unconscious in the driver's seat. He had dark, disheveled hair, a designer suit that looked expensive even from a distance, and a look of agony etched on his face. She didn't recognize him, but that didn't matter. Without hesitation, she reached for the door handle, pulling it open with some difficulty. Her hands were trembling, but she knew she had to act fast. Maya had trained as a volunteer paramedic during her college years. She wasn't a medical expert, but she had learned the basics of first aid, how to stop bleeding, how to check for vital signs, and most importantly, how to keep calm in a crisis. She could hear the faint sound of sirens in the distance, but the man needed help now. Maya crouched beside the vehicle, gently checking his pulse. It was weak but steady. She took a deep breath and applied pressure to the wound on his forehead. He groaned, and her heart skipped a beat. He was alive. Her mind raced. Should she try to move him? What if she made it worse? She checked his breathing, shallow but consistent. Thank God he wasn't choking. Time seemed to stretch, but the sirens were getting closer. She couldn't leave him. Not now, not when she was so close. Minutes later, paramedics arrived on the scene, followed by the police. Maya stepped back, her hands still trembling from the adrenaline of the moment. One of the paramedics thanked her, acknowledging her quick thinking. She nodded, her eyes lingering on the unconscious man as they loaded him into the ambulance. Who is he? Maya asked, half to herself, half to the paramedic. The paramedic glanced at the man in the ambulance and then back at her. You don't know him? Maya shook her head. No. Should I? He's Nathaniel Sinclair, CEO of Sinclair Enterprises, a billionaire. Maya's eyes widened. She had heard of Sinclair Enterprises. The name was synonymous with wealth and power, and Nathaniel Sinclair was a well-known figure in the business world. His face had been splashed across newspapers, on the cover of business magazines, and even on television. Billionaire or not, he needed help. Maya muttered under her breath, brushing the hair from her face. The police and paramedics worked quickly, and soon the chaos of the accident scene began to calm down. The traffic cleared, and by the time Maya caught the bus to work, she couldn't shake the image of Nathaniel Sinclair from her mind. She had never been one to idolize the wealthy, but something about the man's vulnerability, his sheer fragility, struck her. Later that afternoon, Maya returned to the office, where she worked under the watchful eye of her demanding boss, Greg Monroe. Greg was a man who prized efficiency and results above all else, which made Maya's days long and often stressful. Today was no different. Her inbox was filled with urgent emails, calls from clients, and the ever-looming threat of missed deadlines. Still, she couldn't get Nathaniel Sinclair out of her thoughts. At around 3 p.m., as Maya was busy organizing documents for a meeting, she received an unexpected phone call. The caller ID showed an unfamiliar number. Curious, she answered. "Hello, this is Maya Williams," she said cautiously. "Ms. Williams." A smooth, deep voice responded, one that she immediately recognized. "This is Nathaniel Sinclair. I wanted to personally thank you for your actions this morning. You saved my life." Maya felt her heart skip a beat. Nathaniel Sinclair? The billionaire? The words didn't seem to register at first. I was just doing what anyone would have done," Maya stammered. "No, Ms. Williams, not anyone would have." Nathaniel's voice continued, warm and sincere. "You acted when others would have frozen. You kept me alive long enough for the paramedics to get there. I owe you everything." Maya's mind raced. She couldn't quite comprehend what was happening. Why was he calling her? Of all the people who helped him, why was he thanking her? I don't know what to say. Maya finally managed. "You don't have to say anything, but I'd like to meet with you. There's something I want to discuss," Nathaniel said. "How about dinner tomorrow night? I'll have my assistant arrange it." Before she could respond, he hung up. Maya sat in stunned silence, the phone still pressed to her ear. What just happened? Why would a billionaire want to meet with her? Was this some kind of charity thing? Or worse, was this a publicity stunt? She wasn't sure what to think, but one thing was certain. Her life was about to change. Stay tuned for more thrilling twists and turns in this story. Don't miss out. Subscribe to expect stories for the latest updates.